Break the 4% rule with this simple strategy. Simple, Josh? Yeah, I can break the 4% rule? Yeah, you can. That's why you come to Heritage Wealth Planning, to get the difference that no one else is talking about. Everybody else is like, oh, just the boring stuff. Not here. But this can be a little bit different than what you expect. So let's go into this, Pablo, if that's okay with Pablo. Here's What Works Better by Elizabeth O'Brien, a 3-minute read. So for those of you guys in the Marine Corps, it's probably a 3-hour read. All right, for you guys in the Navy, we know you don't read because you're getting jiggy with it, you know. In the Navy, you know what I'm saying? And the Air Force guys, they're just like, read it to me, butler, while you're sending me my caviar and my surf and turf and crab legs. That's how the Air Force is. So the only people that can read in 3 minutes or less would be us in the infantry. It's one of the most vexing questions if you're planning to retire. How much can I afford to spend? You need to know how long you'll live to answer that precisely. Exactly. The financial services industry typically assumes you'll make it to 95, which is just stupid. Yet average life expectancies in the U.S. for those who make it to 65 are for 82 for men. That would be me. 85 for women. I guess that could be me as well. I could be both. Since the vast majority of retirees won't live to 95, some experts say maybe people are spending far too cautiously and not fully enjoying their retirement, or not retiring early enough. Shocking. So we're going to scroll down here a little bit, and I want to show you something here. Very interesting. A retiree's life expectancy should factor into any approach. While people aren't great at estimating this on their own, actuarial data can help. All right. The chance of a 60-year-old with diabetes surviving till 95 is less than 1%. Do you hear that? So if you're 65 with diabetes, you're not living 30 years. A 65-year-old man with diabetes can expect to make it to 79 on average, while a 65 woman with diabetes can be expected to live to 82. Older adults with no chronic conditions, who represent only about 5% of the population, have projected life expectancy at 65 of 90 for women, 88 for men. So only 5% of the population has expected life expectancy for 25 years who are at 65 years old. That's it. We're going to go into this a little bit more. Couples should consider both members' projected longevity 100%. So I want to show you guys something here. Let me get rid of this guy. So I looked up this right here. This is nuts, man. I was talking to a guy yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that. And he had diabetes. I think a lot of people do, because their work makes them fat, makes them eat crap, and makes them get type 2 diabetes. And this guy's, but I've also talked to people who quit work and got over it because they started eating a carnivore diet, started getting walks, starting to be out there in the vitamin D, and just less stress. I'm telling you, man, that's no joke. Stress, heavy eating, bad eating, no exercise, that really can take life expectancy, years off your life. So here's from the Lancet. Before something happened in 2020, the Lancet was considered one of the most prestigious medical journals there are. The BMJ, British Medical Journal, New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, I think it's the fourth, I'm forgetting what it was. And then we know what happened in 2020, where everyone just, they got, I won't say more. You know what I'm talking about. Remember, type 2 diabetes is not what you're born with. This is what happens because you have a bad diet, essentially. The prevalence of type 2 diabetes is increasing rapidly. This is from 2023, September 2023. Particularly among younger age groups. Estimates suggest that people with diabetes die on average 6 years earlier than people without. We aim to provide reliable estimates of the associations between age of diagnosis of diabetes and all-cause mortality. All right, so I just want to show you something here. For this observational study, we conducted a combined analysis of individual participant data from 19 high-income countries. And that'd be us, because we are the highest income, because we crush. Everybody else slushes, America crushes. All right, let's see right here. So check this out. Using death rates from the US of A, 50-year-old individual with diabetes died on average 14 years earlier when diagnosed at age 30, 10 years earlier when diagnosed at age 40, and 6 years earlier when diagnosed at age 50 than an individual without diabetes. You hearing that? A 50-year-old individual with diabetes died on average 14 years earlier when he had diagnosed at 30 years old. So he was diagnosed at 30. At 50 years old, he's still got diabetes. He dies 14 years earlier than an individual without diabetes because he's been carrying the diabetes for that much longer. If you're 40 years old and you develop diabetes, you've been diagnosed, and now you're 50 and you still have diabetes, you died on average 10 years earlier. If you're 50 and you've just been diagnosed with diabetes, you die 6 years earlier. Every decade of early diagnosis of diabetes was associated with 3 to 4 years of lower life expectancy, highlighting the need to develop and implement interventions that prevent or delay the onset of diabetes and intensify the treatment of risk factors among young adults, not even young adults, anybody. So if you're 50 years old, I'm 53. If I was diagnosed with diabetes, my life expectancy would be 6 years earlier than someone without diabetes. All right. If you're 40 years old and you got diabetes, you lost 10 years earlier. And if you're 30 years old and you got diagnosed with diabetes, when you're 50 and you still have diabetes, that's 14 years. I mean, we're talking huge amounts of life gone because your eating style. So look, I'm not blaming people. I mean, we don't know, but now we know. It's time to get out there and get some exercise, man. You can't have this. You can't. Again, type 1 is you can't do it. I mean, that's what you're born with. Type 2 is, though, when it's you gotta watch out. I know it's gonna piss a lot of people off. I'm like, look, I have people all the time. I'll never forget these people out in Columbus, Georgia. They're right out of Columbus. And they showed me a picture of them at their son's wedding, like in 2017. Big. They showed me a picture of them today. Not big. No more diabetes, no more statins because they went on a carnivore diet. Okay, is that going to work for you? Look, I don't know. I like meat. First of all, it tastes good. And it's good for you. It makes me happy inside. And the cows appreciate being treated humanely, all right? If you can do some grass-fed beef, humane treatments and whatnot without all the antibiotics and crap, you're probably going to be a good place. But the facts are we're eating this junk that's put into our system. And look, I do. I mean, I like sugar. I like just as much as the next guy. But I also walk 4 miles a day on a treadmill with a 10-mile incline, 10-thing incline. I burn 850 calories a day. So that affords me a little bit more flexibility in my bad eating habits, my sweet tooth and whatnot. This ain't no joke, dude. So how you break the 4% rule is recognizing you're probably not going to live 30 years in retirement, especially if you have diabetes. So then you're looking at 20, 25. Love your thoughts. God bless. Subscribe with the little button down there. Don't be a loser. Go Bruins tonight, Game 6. See ya.